Hello everyone, my name is Jason Smith. I'm from sunny California, the Golden State, living here in beautiful Beijing, city of museums, for the last 10 years, except for a year in Wuhan. And I want to talk to you about innovation and the scientific shift globally. We're going to base this conversation entirely on facts so that you can check this stuff out for yourself and know that it's true. Facts are in short supply here in the world. I want to make sure that you have them. According to Dashua Consulting, Chinese students are increasingly returning home after studying abroad. Well, I remember in the 1990s, people talking about lots of people wanting to immigrate to the United States. Maybe that is true to some extent, although it's decreasing. The most educated Chinese folks, who make up the largest proportion of international students at US universities, want to go home. They want to work in China in this new tech hub. Scientists from China are also returning to China in record numbers. Therefore, the United States is no longer really the primary destination for international scientists. Most of international students in the world, especially those who go to the United States, are from China. And increasingly, those scientists and those students are choosing China as a place that they want to work and live, making China the #1 top destination for global scientists. China is also now the international hub for innovation, and I will prove this. Firstly, citations and scientific papers. If people say, oh, China is the home of the most research papers, people will say, well, that doesn't count. What counts is the amount of citations. Other scientists who think that that paper is reputable enough to base their research in part on its findings. And China has that too. As of 2018, China has both the most amount of research papers in the world and the most amount of citations of any country in the world. China also has the most amount of new technology patents, 2021 and 2022. But several sources around the world show that this research paper and citation issue is true. That citations from Chinese scientists in China are the primary source of citations for research papers globally, and that the most amount of research papers come from China as well. Some might argue that US universities are the best in the world. And that is true for now, but I want to talk about how the sand is shifting underneath our feet and why. So China is producing the most amount of STEM graduates: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM, S-T-E-M. These are the breadwinners of the scientific community. These are the people who come up with all of the newest innovations, and China produces the most amount of them. Also, China has the most amount of graduates total from any discipline, from any country in the world. And China is producing, in 2022, just produced 10 million new graduates as opposed to the United States. More than 10 to 1. More than 10 to 1 the amount of total graduate earning students. And projections from OECD by 2030 put Chinese STEM students at roughly 10 to 1 as many as from the United States. And with China being the goal destination for many scientists, even those studying abroad, even university students who have studied in the United States, UK, Australia, will increasingly be going to China. China is already now the hub of patents, research papers, and citations, the most innovative country in the world today. But by 2030, it will be so astoundingly ahead that there will be no need for this video at all. Everyone will know this. What about technology exports? So a lot of people say, oh, okay, certainly the United States or the EU exports the most amount of high-tech gadgets, gizmos, technology, computers. Nope, that's not true. China produces about 7 to 1 as much high technology as defined by the World Bank, as the United States, and taken all EU countries combined, China still outpaces them by about 50%. So China, Germany, China, France, China, Italy, take all these countries together, all EU member countries, they still don't export as much scientific gizmos and gadgets, high technology as defined by World Bank, as China does. Well, let's take a look at some kinds of high technology just to get some examples so it's not so abstract. Telecommunications. Largest company in the world according to Statista? Huawei. You've probably heard of Huawei. Mobile payment. Alipay. #1 in the world. I would never leave home without my phone. It doesn't mean I can't call people. It also means I can't pay for things, can't hail a taxi. Everything I do, and people in Shanghai, Beijing, first, second tier, third cities, the top 100 cities, is almost done exclusively by mobile payment. What about gaming? Have you heard of Tencent? The world has, because they are the #1 gaming company in the world. So these are just some examples. What about peak tech? The highest, most innovative technology in the world. Certainly that comes from the United States or the European Union. Nope. So if you take a look at just AI, the United States, Europe, and China are roughly equal at the forefront of AI technology, according to Statista. So what about space technology? China is catching up with the US in space, and the United States, the European Union, Japan, Russia, among others, worked together to build the ISS, the International Space Station. China did it on its own and now is inviting other countries to join them. They have their own space station that they produced autonomously. What about high-speed rail? China has 42,000 kilometers of high-speed rail at the end of 2022. That is more than any country, 10 times more than any country in the world. The United States doesn't really have any real high-speed rail. Even the high-speed rail that they qualify in the United States as high-speed rail doesn't meet most international standards, and there's very little of it, actually. And Japan, #2 in the world for high-speed rail, it's not as fast, and they don't have even 10% as much as China. So we can see across all sorts of fields that high-tech is Chinese. And US universities are actually starting to lose their appeal, probably because of anti-Asian hate crimes and a lot of the rhetoric coming from some politicians in the US. About half fewer students are interested in studying in the US at all. So the US universities are losing their appeal, which is going to hit them in the bank accounts. These big universities depend on money from international students. International students add an enormous amount of value because they pay 3, 4, 5, 6 times as much as local students for the same degree. And if 2/3 as many students are coming, or half as many students are coming because of the hateful rhetoric coming from politicians and the media, then that's going to hit US universities hard. That means less new facilities, less research projects, less funding. That means less of the top students in the world, and more of the top students going to other countries, including staying in China. So the most educated Chinese are returning to China as opposed to immigrating to the United States. So there's going to be a massive shift, and there already is an ongoing massive shift of the best scientists from the United States to China, and from China to itself as opposed to elsewhere. And there are now some rising star Chinese universities I want to tell you about. Universities that are going to supplant US universities. And right now, if you probably say Harvard, Berkeley, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, oh, these are some of the best universities in the world, well, they're going to start losing their rankings because of this lack of funding, because of lack of interest from international students, because of the hateful rhetoric coming from the media and coming from politicians in the United States. So I just want to talk about what are the big names in China's mainland, and what are the names you're going to be hearing in 10 years. PKU, Beijing University. Peking University, which I've been to, it's very lovely, is definitely on that list, probably #2, behind Tsinghua University, which will be the #1 global university, in my opinion. I can't guarantee that, but it's certainly rising fast and has many of the best scientific projects, best scientists, best research going on in the world already now. There is a group called the C9, which China is investing in heavily, and these are some of the big name brand universities in China, but not all of the C9 actually make the top 10 list. So this is the top 10 list, so students in Shanghai don't feel left out. Tsinghua University, Peking University, Fudan University, Zhejiang University, Shanghai Jiaotong University, Nanjing University, University of Science and Technology of China, Wuhan University, and Tongji University are 10 of the top tier universities in China's mainland. And you'll be hearing these names a lot more because a lot of the great scientists of the present and future are and will be coming out of these universities. And cost is the final thing I want to talk about. If you go to Harvard, you know you're going to be paying for a degree. And a lot of people, it's going to be financed by their very rich parents. And for a lot of people, they're going to be in debt until they die. And there is nearly $2 trillion in student debts for 45 to 50 million Americans, holding them back from pursuing their dreams. So they have to get a job at Starbucks as a manager when they get their degree because they need to make payments on their student loans. The many more students graduating from Chinese universities graduate with no debt, or almost no debt. Why? Well, the cost of tuition is less than 5% as much at most Chinese universities versus US universities. Cost of living, much lower. So students graduate with a STEM degree, or whatever degree they have, in China, and they are ready to go out and innovate, start a company, join a company, follow their dream, follow their passion, pursue whatever it is, and be more innovative. Whereas the 45 to 50 million American students with $2 trillion in student loans can't be innovative. They have to get a 9-to-5 for some other company that already finished being innovative before. And that's going to give China's many more students and many more scientists even more competitive advantage. In summation, high tech comes from China. Scientists are moving to China. China leads in new technologies and older technologies. China leads in new research and citations, and Chinese universities in the coming years and decades are set to take the top tier of all universities globally. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.